A student asked if I could create a short tutorial on how to use the Casio 115 MS to do complex numbers. So that is the purpose of this tutorial. If you have a Casio 115 ES, some of the operations will be similar, but there will be some differences. I will give you a link to a video that someone else created for that. I do not have a 115 ES myself, so I cannot create a video myself with that information. So the first thing you need to do if you want to do complex numbers with your Casio is make sure you are in complex mode. So you go press this mode button until you get to the complex screen and make sure you press 2. And notice that up here it will say complex. The other thing you want to do is make sure you are in degree mode. In this class we will be using degree mode for almost everything. So you continue to press this until you get to this page and make sure you press 1. And notice you're going to see a D here signifying that you are in degree mode. As far as entering complex numbers, there are really only a couple buttons you need to do. If you want to enter a complex number in rectangular mode, you basically use this button here, which gives you the imaginary part. So for example, if you want to enter 4 plus 3j or 4 plus 3I, you do, and I like to use these parentheses, I think it helps. You do 4 plus 3I. Okay, that enters it that way. And that gives you the complex number in rectangular form. If you then want to multiply by another complex number in rectangular form, you could do times 7 minus 3I. Then you press equals. It does the calculation. What it shows you first is the real part. To show the imaginary part, you need to use this button down here on top of the equal, and it is the shift. So you do shift that, and that interchanges the real and imaginary, and it gives you the imaginary part. So the imaginary part is 9I or 9J, and once again the shift, and I'm pressing the equal sign, there's the real part, and there's the imaginary part. If you want to then take this and divide it by a complex number, 4 minus 1I, you could do that. And once again, it gives you the real part and the imaginary part. Suppose you want to convert a complex number from rectangular form to polar form. Well, you can still enter it normally in rectangular form, 4 plus 3I. And then you use this button down here with the shift, and this converts it to polar form. So it's shift, this button, notice the display up there, and then equal. It'll now display the magnitude, which is 5. And then to toggle between the magnitude and the phase, it is the shift and the equal sign. So 5 at an angle of 36.9 degrees. Once again, remembering we are in degree mode, and so the phase is shown in degrees. And once again, shift here toggles between the magnitude and the phase. You can enter complex numbers in polar form as well. To enter a complex number in polar form, you enter the magnitude, 5, and then you do the shift and this button here with the little angle symbol. So it's shift, angle, and now it's looking for an angle, 5 at an angle of, let's say, 25 degrees. When you press equal, it actually converts it automatically to rectangular form. So the magnitude of 5 at an angle of 25 degrees is 4.53, and then shift equal plus J 2.11. Another way you can convert from polar to rectangular form is by using this button down here. This converts a polar form answer to the rectangular form answer. So let's clear again, and let's do now 8 at an angle of 60 degrees. Now instead of pressing equal, I can just do shift to rectangular. So it looks like that here, and then you press equal, and 8 at an angle of 60 degrees is 4 plus j 6.92. The nicest thing about complex numbers on this calculator, though, is that you don't have to convert everything to polar form or everything to rectangular form to add them or subtract them or multiply them. You can add them or subtract them or multiply or divide in what we call mixed mode. So for example, I can take a complex number in rectangular form, 4 plus 3i. I can multiply that by a complex number in polar form. 8 shift at an angle of, let's do 25 degrees. And I can divide that, if I wanted to, by another complex number. And once again, I like to use these parentheses to keep track of things. Let's put this in rectangular form again. Minus 3 minus 8i. So if you look at this whole thing, 4 plus 3i times 8 at an angle of 25 degrees divided by minus 3 minus 8i, that equal it always gives the answer in rectangular form first. So there's a real part, there's the imaginary part, and if you want to convert that answer to polar form, once again you just use this button here. So shift to polar takes the answer, converts it to polar form. It's 4.68 at an angle of 172 degrees. Notice when it's in polar form, it gives a little angle symbol here when you toggle between the magnitude and the phase, and that's on the left. When it's rectangular form, which once again convert to rectangular form this way, there's a real part and the imaginary part has the I there. So to review, the only buttons you really need to use, this button here to enter the imaginary part in rectangular form, this button here, and you do need to use the shift key to get the angle part if you're entering the complex number in polar form. This button here with the shift key converts rectangular form to polar form. This button here with the shift key converts polar form to rectangular form. And this button here with the shift key toggles between the real and the imaginary if you're in rectangular form, or the magnitude and phase if you're in polar form. And basically, that's all you need to do. So what I suggest you do is go back to the complex number review packet and try to do some of those examples with your calculator. Once again, if your calculator is something other than the Casio FX115MS, you will need to look in the owner's manual.